I do believe we have, do we have Carolyn Shapiro on the line? We have.
Let's go to her.
Let's go. Carolyn Shapiro, former Solicitor General in Illinois, and obviously a professor at Kent. So Carolyn would be bringing lots of cases, I think, before judges on behalf of the state of Illinois. But Carolyn, I don't know if you've been following some of the blow-by-blow here. You know, we've read off, the judge has a lot of questions. The judge has said she's concerned that there aren't many specifics from the defendants. What do you make of all that?
Well, I've been listening to what the two of you have been talking about, and I agree with your assessment that the government's inability to answer the judge's question is a real problem for the government. The statute that they're relying on allows the president to federalize the National Guard only in certain relatively specific circumstances. One of them is if the federal government is unable to, I'm going to read this, unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. And so that's part of what she's asking about. She's saying, well, how is it that you're unable to execute the laws of the United States? And how are you going to deploy these guardsmen in service of that particular that particular prong? And they really don't have answers beyond saying, well, the sort of vague sense of protecting certain federal facilities. And I'd like to add that with respect to protecting the federal courthouse, where this hearing is actually taking place, the chief judge of the Northern District of Illinois said that she does not think that the National Guard is appropriate, that there is a building security committee, that they rely on the U.S. Marshals, they rely on the courthouse protection services, and that they haven't requested the National Guard and don't think they need the National Guard to protect the federal courthouse. The other argument that I haven't seen really fleshed out yet in the reporting I'm seeing from the hearing is that the federal government is arguing that the fact that there is a threat of rebellion in Chicago, and just the threat of rebellion in Chicago is sufficient to call out the National Guard, to federalize the National Guard. And that's a really remarkable argument here, because what the federal government is arguing is the fact that there are protesters and people who disagree with what the government is doing is itself somehow a threat of rebellion. There has been some criminal activity in mostly property crimes that the government has alleged, but nothing that comes anywhere close to a rebellion. And the notion that disagreement and peaceful protest creates a threat of rebellion is really would have the founding fathers spinning in their graves.
Carolyn, we're getting some updates from inside the courtroom, and I want to get your reaction to what we are just getting a text message from our reporter about. The judge said you reference more guns in Chicago than L.A. Just so we're clear, there is a right to bear arms. Defendants, this is what the defense is saying. People are wearing masks, preparing to go in and harm agents. Evidence of ICE indiscriminately gassing peaceful protesters. I'd wear a mask too.
Wow.
It goes on to say, the judge says, are you aware a TRO has been issued against ICE for excessive force, Broadview, and more generally? The defense says, I'm not aware.
Yeah, so that's the case we just heard from Lovie and Lovie, the other case, the First Amendment case. And so the defendant's saying, I'm not aware. Judge obviously aware.
Is aware of it. What do you make of that? It sounds like the defense, a lot of things that the judge is bringing up, the defense does not have concrete answers for. How do you think this plays out in the court for them?
Well, I think the judge is obviously very concerned about the facts on the ground and is trying to make sure that she's actually going to be ruling on the basis of what's actually happening. The fact that the defendants can't support their position with facts and are actually unaware of what's happening in another courtroom in the same building I think it's not good for them. I think this judge is being extremely careful. She is not ruling on the basis of simple allegations. She's really trying to drill down both into the justifications for what the president is doing, or trying to do, and also what the plans are, and then compare that to those justifications. And the government doesn't seem like the government is doing a very good job of being able to respond to those really quite appropriate questions.
And on that front, Carolyn Shapiro from Kent, IIT Kent, thank you so much for your expertise on this, because we're still getting more
Yes, we are.
notes from the courtroom. The judge saying, under your definition, literally all nonviolent protests would be rebellion. The defendant saying this is a case where the court doesn't need to identify the outer limits of rebellion. Defendant saying the danger of rebellion is enough. It does sound like the judge is very skeptical of all of these arguments. And we want to bring in Sylvia Perez, our noon anchor, who's been watching and listening to these proceedings.
If you're just tuning in and used to seeing us starting at noon, we've been covering this throughout the morning. Of course, we are waiting to hear on a judge's ruling on the National Guard deployment of Illinois. You guys have been talking to attorneys. You've been giving us play-by-play on what's going on in the courtroom, and you're absolutely right. As we read what Anita Blanton is texting us, it does sound like the judge is kind of saying, I don't necessarily agree with what's going on right now.
And then now the judge is, saying you have not defined what rebellion is, and the defendant saying, well, we don't have to define what it is, but there could be a danger of it. And the judge is saying danger of an undefined term. The defendant says the court doesn't have to decide exactly what a rebellion is, but this is key to the case is the president only in the case of a rebellion or insurrection can usurp the wishes of the governor here. So again, the defense struggling here to nail down specifics.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the things, specifically the one you just read, I thought this was interesting. The judge says you reference more guns in Chicago than LA. Just so we're clear, there is a right to bear arms.
Right.
And then they say people are wearing masks, preparing to go in and harm agents. And then the judge comes back with evidence of ICE indiscriminately gassing peaceful protesters. I'd wear a mask too.
She also said this, which we didn't get to. The judge said you cited people with guns at Broadview. Those arrested, a grand jury disagrees a crime occurred. It points to lack of credibility. The defense comes back and says bringing a gun to federal property is indication of risk. The judge says they have a constitutional right. I'm struggling with how exercising constitutional rights and evidence of criminality.
And on federal property. They were on public property.
They were on public property.
Road.
That's right.
Which is public property. And we just get the president's having a cabinet meeting basically saying, quote, on the National Guard, if Governor Pritzker doesn't want it, or if he does want it, we're going to do it anyway. I wonder if that means if they get a ruling here from Judge Perry putting the TRO on this and saying, no, what is it? Does the president just ignore it?
Well, did you notice?
That's more in a strange situation.
Yeah, well, from what we're seeing, and that was a question she asked them, is are you planning on keeping the National Guard there if I decide, to make a different decision on this? You were talking earlier to an attorney, and I think it'd be a good time right now to kind of break down what's been going on, because this hearing started at 11 o'clock, and I think a lot of us thought we would maybe have an answer by now, but we don't. And the attorney broke it down for you in that basically each side has a chance to present their case, and then the judge has the opportunity to go back and ask questions, which is what we're experiencing right now. And we're hoping we hear a decision on this sometime today, but we'll have to see.
Well, she also gave them until 3 p.m. I thought that was very interesting, that the judge says no factual basis for the declaration of bringing the troops, and gave the defense until 3 o'clock to prove why it's needed. So it sounds like at least this may go until 3 o'clock. They would have to come up with some proof of why the troops are needed. But after that, it sounds like this might be over.
Yeah, and Mike Leonard brought up the fact that the judge could issue a ruling from the bench and then tomorrow issue the written ruling, so we don't have to wait until tomorrow. I mean, if her mind is pretty much made up. I mean, I'm just going by her questioning here and the defense responses. It does not seem like the defense is having a good day in court. But, you never know what happens over the next few hours. But yeah, Sylvia, I mean, this is something all eyes here are on Chicago and this little suburb, Broadview.
Well, and they're having the hearing in Oregon at the same time. So we are definitely the focus of the nation right now. And here's the bottom line: National Guard troops are here. We have shown video of them.